Hello and welcome. As you might have guessed from the title of this session, today we're diving into the world of generative artificial intelligence, or Gen AI. Since the release of ChatGPT, the first widely available large language model, Gen AI has turned into a buzzword across almost every field imaginable, and learning and development is certainly no exception. Today, we will explore a fundamental question. Can Gen AI truly accelerate the development of learning experiences? To answer this question, we'll share the results of our experiments, insights, and what we've learned along the way through our work with faculty across the country. As we begin, I'd like to introduce you to our presenters. I'm Kathy Grove, the Senior Vice President of Learning Design. I lead a team of learning design experts who help faculty create engaging learning experiences.
I'm Kyle Nicholas, Associate Director of Faculty Engagement. I support university faculty in facilitating engaging and pedagogically sound online courses. Lately, Gen AI has been on faculty's minds, which has required us to develop a plan for the creative and responsible use of Gen AI in online learning.
I'm Kate Starovich, an instructional designer in the learning design team here at Everspring. I assist university faculty in planning and developing accessible, engaging, and student-oriented online learning experiences, and make sure they're easy and clear to facilitate and maintain in the future.
Even with the growing presence of Gen AI in nearly every aspect of our lives and careers, many of us still struggle to fully harness its potential. This is often due to a lack of the right tools and strategies. In today's session, we aim to bridge that gap. We'll begin by identifying practical use cases for Gen AI within learning and development. From there, we'll move on to recognizing the essential components of AI prompts, understanding how to tailor them for specific tasks to get the best results. Next, we'll dive into the techniques behind prompt generation, focusing on how to select and apply these methods to achieve desired outputs. Finally, we'll discuss how these techniques can be applied to facilitate the development and delivery of learning experiences. We hope that by the end of this session, you will have a clearer understanding of how to utilize Gen AI effectively in your work. As we mentioned earlier, generative AI and large language models, or LLMs, have quickly gained popularity across various sectors. The following two slides will provide us with some numbers that clearly illustrate this growing trend in both corporate settings and higher education. Let's start with the corporate data. By 2025, it's estimated that 50% of digital work will be automated through applications powered by language models. This is a significant shift driven by the development of approximately 750 million apps that will rely on LLMs. These apps are expected to streamline a wide range of tasks, from content creation to customer support, fundamentally changing the way we work. Additionally, the latest LLM statistics show that almost 67% of organizations are already using generative AI products that rely on LLMs to process human language and produce content. This includes not only corporate entities, but also nonprofits, which significantly expands the pool of potential adopters. On the higher education front, Gen AI presents exciting opportunities for everyone involved, from students and teachers to policymakers. Currently, 31% of universities are already utilizing AI applications to enhance student engagement. By leveraging educational technology, these institutions are creating more captivating and interactive learning experiences, making education more accessible and engaging for students. Furthermore, AI-driven programs and adaptive learning systems have been shown to boost exam scores by 62%, demonstrating a dramatic improvement in learning outcomes. These systems tailor educational experiences to individual student needs, providing targeted support that helps students achieve better results. Another significant impact of AI in education is the reduction in time spent on grading. AI marking tools have cut the time teachers spend on manual grading by 70%, allowing educators to focus more on teaching and less on administrative tasks. As you can see, with the help of Gen AI, there is an opportunity to significantly enhance education. So what are the benefits of generative AI in learning and development? With the help of Gen AI, we can rapidly develop content and manage administrative tasks much more efficiently. By freeing up time gained from routine tasks that now can be done by Gen AI, we are enabled to focus on what truly matters: fostering a deeper and more meaningful learning experience. Gen AI also assists in creating customized learning journeys for each learner. No longer are we confined to a one-size-fits-all approach. This ensures that every student receives the specific attention and resources they need to excel, enhancing their overall learning experience. Gen AI's ability to scale learning is one of its standout benefits. With these technologies, we can extend high-quality education to a much broader audience, making learning more accessible than ever before. This scalability ensures that no student is left behind, regardless of geographical, resource, or budget limitations. However, integrating AI into education is not without challenges. Many educators face a steep learning curve when adopting these new tools. There is also a general unfamiliarity with effective AI strategies. We hope to address these challenges in our webinar. As we begin diving into the insights and findings we discovered while experimenting with Gen AI, we want to outline that our focus lies in automating routine duties while emphasizing human-centric teaching and learning. In essence, we believe that AI should augment, not replace our educators. It should enrich the educational landscape for everyone involved, providing tools that deliver better, more personalized, and scalable learning experiences. Let's hone in on the benefits of generative AI in learning and development by taking a closer look at how AI is being applied in teaching and learning. AI can significantly enhance brainstorming sessions by generating new ideas, suggesting alternative approaches, and even conducting preliminary research on a topic. This capability allows users to explore a broader range of possibilities and make more informed decisions in their projects. Content creation and curation is where AI truly excels. For learning and development professionals, content creation and curation can be time-consuming tasks. Gen AI can generate content quickly and efficiently by producing text, designing instructional materials, or even creating multimedia elements like videos or infographics. These tools provide a solid starting point, allowing us to review and refine the provided output to meet our specific needs. Additionally, Gen AI helps by sifting through vast amounts of information to identify relevant resources that align with specific learning objectives. AI-driven adaptive learning platforms continuously assess learners' capabilities and dynamically adjust the content and difficulty level based on their progress, providing customized learning path tutoring and support with immediate feedback and assistance. With the help of Gen AI, we can create simulations that provide immersive learning experiences that replicate real-world scenarios. These simulations allow learners to practice and apply their knowledge in a safe and controlled environment, enhancing their understanding and retention of the material. To begin our journey of identifying effective prompting strategies, let's define what we mean by generative AI. According to McKinsey & Company, Gen AI refers to algorithms that can be used to create new content, whether it's audio, code, images, text, simulations, or videos. This definition gives us a broad understanding, but it's important to dig a bit deeper into how these algorithms actually work. Gen AI is trained on vast amounts of data. It processes human language, generating responses that appear incredibly human-like. However, it's crucial to understand that while Gen AI can mimic understanding, it doesn't truly understand language the way we do. It predicts the next word or phrase based on patterns in the data it was trained on. There is another foundational element to address before we move forward: how Gen AI generates its outputs.
To explain the mechanism behind generating the output, I would like you to imagine AI's knowledge as a sprawling city, filled with diverse neighborhoods and districts. In one part of the city, you might find a neighborhood of financial experts, while another district houses culinary wisdom, and elsewhere clusters of historical scholars. And just like in many cities, everything tends to gravitate toward the downtown area. Tourists flock to popular sites, locals enjoy diverse restaurants, and even the majority of public transportation routes go toward the city center. The same concept applies to generative AI knowledge. By default, AI leans toward our imaginary city center, where it accesses general information and common knowledge that will satisfy the needs of an average user. But if you want to truly experience the richness of the city and get more accurate feel of it, you would explore the neighborhoods as well. By providing generative AI with more precise and detailed requests, you navigate the AI to draw information from historical or culinary neighborhoods, obtaining outputs that are more specific and tailored to your requests. So let's explore a framework that can help you to determine what kind of information to include in your prompts to align it with your specific goals. The framework we use is called RACEF, and it stands for Role, Action, Context, Examples, and Format. And each specific component has its function in the prompt. Role defines the who of AI. When we assign a role to the generative AI, it aligns the outputs with the expected perspective or expertise level. And going back to the city analogy, it navigates generative AI to the neighborhood we wanted to draw data from. For example, depending on the task at hand, you might want to assign AI the role of financial analyst, a history teacher, or a customer service representative. Actions specify what we want AI to do, the task at hand. This is where we direct AI's efforts, whether it's summarizing information, writing content, or identifying patterns. Clarity is a key here. Instead of vaguely asking, analyze the data, you might want to specify a little bit more by saying, identifying the trends in the quality of sales data. Context provides the background information or specific rules that AI needs to consider when generating a response. While generative AI has access to vast amount of data, it benefits greatly from additional context that narrows its focus. It can be helpful, for example, to include details about the learner's needs, the educational environment, or specific pedagogical approaches in your prompt. Examples are instrumental in guiding the AI toward desired output. By providing the examples, you offer AI a template or pattern to follow, which can significantly improve the accuracy and quality of the response. And finally, format clarifies how you want the information to be presented, whether it's in bullet points, a detailed report, or a concise summary. While incorporating RACEF components can enhance your prompts, you don't need to use all of them every time. The key is choosing what's most relevant for the task. I encourage you to experiment by creating multiple prompts that include different RACEF components for the same request. This practice will help you understand which elements are the most effective for the specific task that you have at hand. Let's break down how this element worked in a prompt. First, we assign generative AI the role of an instructional designer. As we mentioned, it will help align the AI's output with the expected perspective and expertise level. We then provided background information about a professor facing a challenge with teaching students to give constructive feedback. This context gives AI precise guidelines, ensuring that AI response is relevant and aligned with our goals. For the action, we asked AI to provide recommendations and specify the format by requesting a bulleted list with brief explanations, including the pros and cons of each recommendation. Some of you may have already noticed that the example component is missing from this prompt. This was intentional to avoid constraining the AI and encourage more diverse suggestions. However, if we were creating an assignment for future instructional designers to analyze AI's recommendation, we would include examples. Doing so would ensure consistent outputs, reducing learners' cognitive load by eliminating the need to process recommendations in various formats and allowing learners to focus more on the content. Then the prompt might look something like this. I encourage you to replace the context with the one that applies to you and try to evaluate the outputs. Save the outputs to use them later in this webinar.
Now that we've explored the RACEF framework for effective prompting, let's look at some critical considerations when working with generative AI. While leveraging the power of generative AI can improve learning experiences, we need to be vigilant about potential risks. First and foremost is data privacy and intellectual property. You should avoid sharing proprietary information with these models. Submitting confidential or proprietary data can lead to unintended data loss or breaches of confidentiality agreements. Since these models may process personal information, organizations must stay mindful of data privacy concerns. Next, always check your company or institutional guidelines before using generative AI. Another key point is to check the quality of AI-generated outputs. Generative AI models can sometimes hallucinate, which means they produce erroneous content. To minimize risks, it's essential to implement thorough, independent quality checks to verify the accuracy of the generated content. Remember, you are the expert in the room. Finally, transparency is vital. Always clearly communicate when content is AI generated to maintain trust with your audience. Now that we've covered the essential things to be cautious about when using generative AI, let's dive into some effective prompting techniques that can help you maximize its potential. The first technique is called prompt series. The prompt series technique involves creating a sequence of prompts designed to refine or expand AI's output. Many of you might be using this technique already without even realizing it. Given that large language models are designed as chat-based systems, most generative AI mirrors how we naturally converse in our daily lives, refining and clarifying our questions as we go. So, how can you effectively use the prompt series technique? Let's break it down. First, start with an initial prompt. This will be a clear and concise question or statement that sets the stage for the conversation. For example, you might ask, "Explain machine learning to me." Next, evaluate the AI's response. If the output is unclear, incomplete, or too general, then refine your prompt to address specific points. You could say something like, "Can you explain machine learning with an example from healthcare?" You can then use follow-up prompts to clarify your request by pointing out any mistakes the AI made or to request justification for its answers. For example, "Why did you say that deep learning is a subset of machine learning?" Or if your focus shifts, you might modify your initial prompt and ask, "Now, explain machine learning in the context of financial analysis." Finally, if your inquiry is part of a larger task, ask AI for the next step in the process. For instance, what would be the next step after understanding the basics of machine learning? This method of using follow-up prompts helps you get more detailed and relevant outputs. Now, let's see this technique in action.
Let's see how this prompting technique works with an already familiar professor's request for strategies to teach students to give constructive feedback. As you can see here, we have GPT-4o, which is a free version, opened. Let me put the first prompt in here, and feel free to pause this video to review the prompt, or you can also review this prompt in the handout we created for this webinar, together with the chat history link that you can review to evaluate the response. I will give ChatGPT just a second to finalize the first response so that we can review and evaluate it together after this. Okay, now that we have ChatGPT finished its response, let's take a look at this together. So as you can see, we're starting with actually introducing what is a structured and constructive feedback to students. Then we have some guided peer review exercises, some role-playing scenarios, self-assessments, feedback journals, and real-world feedback sessions. Those are pretty good recommendations, and some of them I would also give to any of my subject matter experts during one of my consults. So that's a pretty good result. However, let's say that instead of 5 suggestions, I want to increase it now to 6. And also, I want to make sure that each of these recommendations is grounded in research. So let's add the second follow-up prompt and see if the responses will change. Okay, I'm gonna put the follow-up prompt right here, and we will give ChatGPT just a minute to finalize the outputs. Okay, we can definitely see that the language has changed. And by issuing this follow-up prompt, we're asking AI not only to expand its output, but also to deepen the quality by grounding its recommendations in research findings. This gradual refinement exemplifies how the prompt series technique allows us to progressively build on AI's initial response, guiding it toward a more detailed and relevant output that suits our situation.
As another example, imagine you're a teacher and you want to send an announcement to your undergraduate business analytics course. Your goal is to address common questions and concerns that emerged in the week's discussion board. Here's how you can do this using generative AI. You would provide the discussion board contents as input to the model after a clear prompt such as the following. You are a teacher. Summarize the main issues and questions that students had in the following discussion and create a 200-word announcement, which should be neatly organized with bullets if needed. The tone should be welcoming and encouraging, and the language should be inclusive and easy to understand. Then we can create a space and insert the points of the discussion. AI now generates an announcement that starts with "Hello everyone," and it thanks them for the active participation. It starts with a quick summary of the main topics that were discussed, such as understanding analytics and context, tools and software, adapting to unforeseen events, and practical applications and adaptability. It's even picking up that many of you had questions about the tools needed for different types of analytics, and it attempts to answer those questions. You can then ask follow-up questions if you want more specifics, or copy this text and edit it so that it's more accurate given your subject matter expertise. Having seen the prompt series technique in action, I'll briefly mention some additional use cases for this method. One valuable use case is in course or training development. You can use a series of prompts to break down the creation of a course module. Start with prompts that define overall learning objectives, then follow up with prompts for lesson plans, interactive activities, and assessment methods. This iterative approach should help every component of the module to be aligned with intended learning outcomes. Another application is in reviewing and revising existing instructional materials. Use a sequence of prompts to guide the review process, asking AI to focus in on things like content accuracy, engagement strategies, accessibility, and alignment with learning outcomes. For content curation, especially if you're using a large language model connected to the internet, a series of prompts can assist in pulling relevant articles. You might start with a broad topic and then use follow-up prompts to narrow down to specific aspects or trends, ensuring that the content is both relevant and comprehensive. Lastly, applying the prompt series technique to feedback analysis can be highly effective. Use prompts to categorize and analyze student feedback in order to point out common themes and areas for improvement.
Now, let's explore a technique that can help you achieve more precise outcomes, especially when you need the AI to follow an established procedure or framework. This technique is called the chain of thought prompting. This method is not just about asking AI questions. It's about guiding AI through a structured series of prompts that build on each other to produce more accurate, reasoned, and reliable outputs. Going back to our city analogy, think of the chain of thought as creating a detailed map that directs the AI through the city's neighborhoods, ensuring it follows a specific route to reach the intended destination, rather than wandering aimlessly or sticking to the go-to city center. This approach shows the AI how to reason or which steps to follow before delivering an output. In other words, it teaches AI how you want it to think about the request that you are submitting. To create an effective chain of thought prompt, start by outlining the problem or defining a goal. Then, break it down into actionable steps. Provide any necessary rules and conditions, and refine and iterate until you achieve the desired result. This approach reduces the chances of AI making errors or jumping to conclusions. A key point to remember is that the effectiveness of this prompt heavily relies on your expertise. By giving AI a series of prompts, we're not only instructing, but also embedding our logic and expertise into the process. That is why it is important to be clear and deliberate with each step. And this is why refining and iterating your own prompt is so valuable. Let's see how it works in practice. In the familiar example, we begin by identifying a challenge and defining goals. How to incrementally teach students to provide constructive feedback. Next, We break it down into tasks by asking the AI to list pros and cons of each recommendation. This step encourages a deeper exploration of each option, helping to weigh the benefits and drawbacks. Finally, we ask the AI to recommend a single item from the list, along with an explanation of why it was chosen. This step requires generative AI to apply the reasoning established in the previous outputs and make a considered decision. Throughout this process, we're guiding the AI to not only generate solutions, but also to evaluate and select the most suitable one based on the previous responses it gave. Try to use this technique with the prompt you created when practicing the RACEP framework. Is the recommendation still the same? Do you see any difference in the output?
Next, let's explore a practical application of the chain of thoughts technique in a live course setting. In an interactive classroom environment, keeping students engaged can be challenging. One way might be to use the chain of thoughts technique to facilitate interactive problem solving, either all together as a class or in breakout small groups. For example, let's say you want to help students with algebra problems. Here's how you can use this technique. I enter a prompt and first define a role. You are a math teacher who is proficient at helping students solve algebra problems. Then I give it some guidelines. You will ask a student to enter a problem they want help with. I tell it to wait for an answer. Then walk them through each step, but do not give answers. Rather, encourage them through Socratic means. So when I enter this prompt, ChatGPT says, okay, please share an algebra problem. So let's say I shared 3x plus 6 equals 12. Now it's going to start asking me how I might solve it. Think about what we need to do to isolate x. What would be a good first step to simplify the equation? So the correct first answer is subtract 6 from both sides, but what if I said add 6 to both sides? Add 6 to both sides. Actually, to isolate x, we should start by removing the constant term on the left side. What happens if we subtract 6 from both sides of the equation? So I'd say we would get 3x equals 6. And it says exactly, now that we have 3x equals 6, what do you think we should do next to solve for x? This approach fosters a collaborative learning environment where students actively participate in solving problems through guided exploration. Now that we've covered this interactive problem-solving example, let's move on to further explore the chain of thoughts technique with additional scenarios.
Chain of thought also allows us to create reusable and interactive frameworks that can be utilized across the development of any learning experience. Let's explore this with a practical example focused on rubric creation. So imagine you need to guide AI to create a rubric tailored to an instructor-specific assignment, or potentially multiple assignments per learning experience project. Here's how we can structure the prompt to achieve this. I will paste this prompt here, but please do not be worried about reviewing this prompt as we will be doing this together in just a second. As ChatGPT is generating the first output, let's explore this prompt a little bit closer. So if we take a look at the first paragraph, we will notice that we identified a goal for AI, which is creating the rubric. In addition to that, we provide context about the purpose of rubric, which every learning and design expert has in mind when developing a rubric. However, this is something that AI might not be familiar with, and in order to focus it on the rubric generation best practices, we preemptively provide this information to ensure the output is precise. We also break down the task of creating the rubric into several steps. The first step is to gather all necessary introductory information, namely gathering information about the topic and the audience. The second task is to gather information about the assignment objective and instruction. And the last task is to understand how many points we want to allocate per this assignment. We've also provided some formatting and expectations for ChatGPT to follow when creating a rubric.
Feel free to pause this video and introduce yourself to those criteria, but I would say that they are pretty standard to the best practices in rubric generation. Okay, so let's take a look at the first output, which actually matches our first step. What generative AI is trying to do here is introducing itself to an instructor as their rubric generation assistant. And this introduction is pretty important because it sets the tone for an interactive process where AI isn't just generating a rubric out of context, but is actively engaging with the instructor's needs. In accordance with our instructions provided in the first prompt, AI asks us two key questions. The first one is about the topic, and the second one is about the audience that we are teaching. So let's say we're working with business analytics course, and this course is designed for undergraduate students. After understanding the subject and student level, the AI asks us for the assignment instructions and what the students should be able to do after completing the assignment, or alternatively, what criteria for success should be. This step ensures that the rubric will be directly aligned with the learning outcomes and expectations of the assignment, making it a truly useful tool for both the instructor and the student. So let's say that we have a task where students need to analyze one of the provided case studies with help of the business analytics techniques that they have previously learned. And based on this analysis, they need to write a report that summarizes their findings. Okay, let me put this all into writing. Okay, I have put all of this into writing, and let's transition to step number 3, which is allocating points. Knowing the total points is essential for designing a rubric that accurately reflects the weight of each criterion. Again, we instruct AI to wait for this information before generating the rubric, ensuring that all necessary details are in place to generate the rubric that aligns with our expectations the most. So let's say this is a task that is 100 points in total. And if we want, we can also provide the breakdown of what we want each criteria to be worth. Okay, we can see here that ChatGPT has created a rubric that includes 4 criteria, and they're looking pretty good. What I would like to bring your attention to when you're working with the rubric is the description of each specified criteria. This is one of the most important things and something that my subject matter experts struggle the most with. However, I can see that this output is not perfect because it's not actually giving us the point allocation. In order to solve this problem, we might want to refresh. ChatGPT does it quite often. Let's take a look if this will be fixed here. Now that we have the output, we see that the point allocation issue was not addressed. So one of the things that we can do is provide a follow-up prompt by identifying the mistakes that AI has made. So we can say something like, make sure you allocate the points appropriately. And now it completed the request. So now generative AI understood what we meant by point allocation, and it added an additional column with points, which is great. So by utilizing the chain of thought technique and breaking down this task into steps, we were able to guide AI through the process that not only gathered all necessary information, but also ensure that the output is customized, relevant, and aligned with the assignment learning objectives. I would definitely pause for a second and review this rubric one more time and make all necessary adjustments with your subject matter expert. But this rubric is definitely a great starting point to begin conversation with your subject matter expert that will save you some time. And in addition, this chat can be used multiple times to work on creating rubric for other assignments in this course.
Here are some common use cases for chain of thought method that can be particularly effective in learning design. Chain of thought can be used to create immersive and structured learning experiences, such as case studies, problem-solving exercises, and scenario-based learning. We can use a prompt similar to how we created the rubric generation assistant to create a learning assistant that will guide students through a case study or a scenario, asking them questions at each step. This approach ensures that students apply the concepts they've learned, think critically, and engage deeply with the material. We can also ask the assistant to generate supporting visuals like images or graphs, enhancing the realism of the scenarios. This method is especially useful when there is a clear, linear progression in the learning activity, as it helps students to navigate the content logically without being overwhelmed. Another powerful application of chain of thought is in repurposing learning materials. By breaking down materials and guiding the AI through a structured process, you can create new resources that meet various learning needs. For instance, you can transform a class discussion into a case study or convert slides into a handout or learning guide. Lastly, chain of thought can be used to automate grading or provide personalized feedback. By providing the AI with the assignment instructions and the rubric, you can allow it to offer initial feedback or suggest a grade that aligns with the assignment's expectations. This not only saves time for instructors, but also ensures that feedback is consistent and aligned with the learning objectives. Remember, chain of thought allows you to structure your prompts effectively, but it is your expertise that ensures the AI responses are relevant and valuable. I hope these use cases gave you some ideas on how you can use chain of thought. Pause this video for a moment and try at least one to get the most out of this webinar. Okay, now that we have seen and hopefully practiced addressing tasks that require a step-by-step approach with help of AI, let's explore a prompt technique that will help you to address a complex, open-ended problem. This technique is called Tree of Thoughts. Tree of Thoughts works by allowing you to explore multiple paths or solutions simultaneously, rather than following a single linear path. Imagine you're at the base of a tree with many branches. Each branch represents a different line of reasoning or potential solution to your problem. As you climb the tree, you explore different branches, considering multiple possibilities before selecting the most suitable. This method mimics how we as humans naturally approach complex problems by considering different options before making a decision. Here's how Tree of Thoughts works in practice. First step is similar to chain of thought. You start by defining a problem. For example, we have a complex concept to teach. As our next step, instead of moving in the linear sequence, we identify key decision points where different choices or paths can be taken. These decision points are the branches of the tree that will lead to different outcomes. Continuing with our example, we can ask AI to generate 3 different strategies or branches for teaching this complex concept. For each decision point or a branch, ask AI to explore multiple potential steps or outcomes at each stage. This exploration helps AI to evaluate implications and consequences of each choice, giving you a comprehensive view of the possible solutions. In our example, we would ask to identify potential student misconceptions for each strategy. For each new decision point, or misconception in our case, we will repeat the process by further exploring subsequent decision points and their outcomes. This iterative exploration allows for deeper analysis and the consideration of complex, multi-step solutions. For instance, we could instruct AI to design differentiated learning paths that address these misconceptions. After exploring various branches and outcomes, the AI can help to identify the most suitable strategy or solution based on the exploration. This final step consolidates the insights gained from the multiple paths explored. In our example, the branching approach we used provided a richer set of instructional options to consider, allowing us to consolidate the learning paths that share similarities and create personalized and effective learning experiences. Let's explore how we can apply the Tree of Thoughts prompting method in practice with this example. In the first prompt, we're leveraging the Tree of Thought by inviting multiple experts to contribute to their perspectives. Each expert represents a different branch of thought, allowing us and AI to explore various approaches to the same problem. In the second prompt, we asked to simulate a discussion among these experts, where they not only present their ideas, but also consider and respond to the suggestions of others. In this way, we create an iterative process where we guide AI through exploring, refining, and improving multiple solutions as new ideas are introduced. The final output allows to see the full scope of exploration and rationale behind the chosen approach. You can find both the prompt and the output in the provided handout that we kindly asked AI to organize for you in the Markdown table. This method is particularly powerful because it mirrors the way human experts might collaborate to solve a problem, considering multiple perspectives and refining ideas through discussion.
So imagine you need to develop a training program for project management skills for junior managers, and you're working with a busy subject matter expert who doesn't have time for long meetings. This is a common challenge, and in this case, you decide to use generative AI to come up with a draft of the training outline. Here is the prompt that we have created that uses the tree of thoughts method that will guide the AI through the outlining process by asking it to address the key branches. So you can see that in the first branch, we asked AI to identify some of the competencies or behaviors that we want the learners to obtain as a part of this training. And in the sub-branch, for each competency, we asked AI to explore which specific skills should be developed to support these behaviors. In a key branch 2, we asked AI to identify another thing that we do pretty often for the outline procedure, which is structuring the modules. We asked AI to suggest various topics that each module should cover and explore different ways these topics could be organized to build on each other effectively. In a key branch number 3, we are working with the assessment methods to evaluate the learner's progress and the effectiveness of the training program. We asked AI to compare different assessment techniques such as quizzes, project, peer reviews, and consider how this can be conducted to align with the training goals. And in the last key branch number 4, we are asking AI to identify some practice opportunities to apply skills learned in this training in the real-world scenarios. The AI can also identify suitable case studies, simulations, hands-on projects that can be incorporated to reinforce learning. Okay, now let's take a look at the output that we have. As you can see here, in the key branch number 1, AI focused on identifying some core competencies that will be important for our junior managers in the project management skills training. So we can see here that in total, it has identified 5 skills, including technical proficiency, leadership, some communication skill, and risk management. Let's take a look here at the leadership competency here. So as you can see, the AI broke down each competency into skills that need to be mastered. For example, here in the leadership, we have team motivation, conflict resolution, and decision making. And in the comparison line, which I know sounds a little bit weird, AI is not really good with naming things sometimes, especially in such a difficult prompt method, but it's fine. In the comparison line, it outlined why leadership competency was selected and even noted that it might be a little bit challenging competency to master due to the lack of experience that the junior managers have. In the selection line, it suggested that team motivation and decision-making skills can be introduced to the junior managers as foundational leadership skills. And the conflict resolution might be a more advanced topic that can be introduced in a different course or can be an additional topics that students can explore on their own. Continuing evaluating generative AI's output, we can also see that it has provided some information for us on the training modules and structuring those modules. It has included the list of topics for us to review, and in the comparison line, it has provided us with the rationale behind how those choices were made. In addition, in the selection line, it has provided us with the guidelines on learning materials and the topics that are to be included in the modules and the order of those topics that has to be reviewed in the modules. We can also see here some suggestions on the assessment methods. In the comparison line, we have here the rationale behind the recommendation, and in the selection, AI explains us how to incorporate these assignments in the course. Finally, we can also see here that Generative AI has provided us with the training program outline, which is based on the completed comparison and provided recommendations that we have just reviewed with you. In each of these areas, the AI doesn't just generate a single answer. It explores different sub-branches within each key branch, comparing and contrasting various options. For example, when looking at competencies, the AI suggested different skills that could support a specific behavior, and then evaluate which one is the most relevant or impactful. This allows you to develop a comprehensive and well-considered outline draft that you can review and refine with the subject matter expert, saving both time and effort. In addition, this approach helps you to ensure that the training program is thorough, well-structured, and tailored to the specific needs of junior managers, all while efficiently utilizing the limited time you have with the subject matter expert.
As we conclude our exploration of tree of thoughts technique, let's summarize some additional ways this approach can be utilized to enhance learning experiences. The tree of thoughts technique is highly versatile and can be applied in various contexts to deeper understanding and foster critical thinking. Here are a few additional ways you can leverage this technique. First, you can use tree of thoughts to generate and brainstorm ideas. You've seen that this technique is a perfect method of an idea exploration that helps you to see the idea from multiple angles. By guiding the AI to branch out and explore different perspectives, you can uncover insights that might not emerge from a more linear approach. You can also use it with case studies. It is a good technique to implement for case studies that are involving multiple variables and potential outcomes. It helps in exploring different scenarios and understanding complex interactions, thus providing learners with a comprehensive view of a case and enhancing their critical thinking. This technique can also be used to develop critical thinking exercises. By prompting students to consider various perspectives and potential outcomes, you encourage them to explore different branches of thought. This fosters a deeper engagement with the material and enhances their analytical skills. You may also use tree of thought prompt in simulations. It can help to guide learners through a different decision point and the consequences of those decisions. This not only makes learning more engaging, but also helps students understand the real-world implications of their choices. By integrating the tree of thoughts approach into your teaching strategies, you can create richer, more interactive learning experiences that promote deeper understanding and critical thinking.
As we approach the end of this presentation, it's important to compare and contrast the last two methods of prompting generative AI, chain of thought and tree of thoughts. Understanding the strengths and limitations of each technique can help you choose which approach better meets your needs. Chain of thought involves a linear progression where one decision point leads to the next. This method follows a predetermined sequence, with each step logically building on the previous one to reach a conclusion. It's like a well-structured path where each step is carefully planned to ensure thoroughness and clarity. In contrast, the tree of thoughts method explores multiple decision points simultaneously. It's less restrictive, allowing for a broader exploration of ideas and scenarios, representing different possibilities and outcomes, and offering a more comprehensive view of potential paths. Now let's discuss the focus of each method. Chain of thought excels in depth. It's ideal for tasks that require a detailed exploration of a single path. Think of it as working through a to-do list where each task must be completed in order. However, its drawback is that it can be too rigid for some complex problems, potentially missing alternative paths. Tree of thoughts emphasizes breadth. It's useful for considering multiple paths and their potential outcomes. This approach allows you to weigh various scenarios before making a decision. Imagine it as exploring a decision tree where each branch represents different options and their consequences. The challenge with this method is that it can become complex and overwhelming, so it requires careful management to effectively explore all branches. One of the most powerful ways to use these techniques is to combine them. Start with the chain of thought approach to establish a clear, logical progression of ideas. When you reach a decision point that requires deeper exploration, shift to the tree of thoughts technique to explore multiple possibilities. This hybrid approach allows you to guide the AI more effectively and ensure both depth and breadth in its reasoning. Let's reflect on the key points we've covered. Ethan Mollick's quote here highlights a crucial shift in our interaction with technology. For the first time, we can amplify our cognitive abilities through AI, not just our physical ones. AI is not just a tool, but a partner in our creative and intellectual processes. I encourage you to integrate AI into your work by experimenting with it and refining the prompts we've discussed to suit your own needs. Consider which tasks can be streamlined and how AI can act as a brainstorming buddy to enhance your productivity. However, it's important to remember that the effectiveness of AI is closely linked to your expertise. Research indicates that experienced specialists achieve significantly greater productivity gains with generative AI compared to those who are less experienced. Your practice, knowledge, and skill are what really unlock the full potential of AI. Thank you so much for your time. We hope it has been helpful. Please feel free to explore further by referencing the prompts and additional resources on our handout.